Hello everybody and welcome back to another video with Lim Reviews. Now today I have here two very interesting devices. One is the recently launched POCO X3 GT, and on the other hand here we have the very popular POCO F3. Now I did this review of the POCO X3 GT like 2 days ago, and I noticed a lot of you guys are already asking whether you should go for the X3 GT or just go with the plain old POCO F3. Now, in this video, I'm going to be giving you guys a very detailed comparison here, a quick comparison so I don't take up too much of your time. Just so you know, I've been using both devices here for quite some time now. The POCO F3 here is my personal daily driver that I've been using for I think almost 2 months now, whereas the POCO X3 GT here, I've been using it for 2 to 3 weeks. So whatever you hear from me today right here is really based on an actual user's perspective. Alright, so without further ado, let's just jump into the comparison right away. First up, we want to talk a little bit about price. So to keep this comparison fair, I've got the two top spec variant here. Both devices here come with 8GB of RAM and 256GB of UFS 3.1 storage. So in terms of pricing, the POCO X3 GT here is launched at 1,600 ringgit here in Malaysia, and this is 1,700 ringgit. So just based on the price differences, it's only 100 ringgit, and if you're in other regions of the world, that means approximately $30 separates both the pricing of these devices right here, and that's very narrow. So which device should you buy? Let's check it out. Alright, so first up, we're going to talk very quickly about the design and build quality right here. On the POCO X3 GT, we have this. It looks quite okay, very generic design right here. But one thing you need to take note of here is that the back panel here is made of plastics. Apart from that, it does stick a lot of your fingerprints. It is a very fingerprint magnet right here. So you might want to use a case with it. Overall, it feels fine in hand. It's not that it feels terrible or anything. It's just that it doesn't feel as premium as that guy right there. Now, the POCO F3 on the other hand here is slightly slimmer. It comes with a glass back panel here, and it's so smooth and nice to the touch. Obviously, if you go for the different color variants, the back panel might feel a little bit different. But for me, because I hate fingerprints, I went with this because of that smooth matte-ish material. So very nice here, glass panel versus plastics. You know which is better. Right, now let's move on to the second point, and this is one of the major differences, and that is in the display technology. Before I start that, it's worth pointing out that both devices here have 1080p displays. They're both 120Hz refresh rate, so very fluid on both devices here. That's great. And last but not least, they're both around the size of 6.6 inches. Right, so what's really different here? First up, the main differences here is in the technology of these displays. Now, on the POCO X3 GT, we have an LCD panel, whereas on the POCO F3 here, we have an AMOLED panel. And just based on this alone, I can say that it is a huge margin in terms of display quality here. So for the POCO X3 GT, in my review that I did, I mentioned that the peak brightness is just 450 nits. And if you are outdoors most of the time, you'll notice that it is very difficult to see the display under the sun, or even not under the sun at all, because max at 450 nits is just quite low. However, on the POCO F3 here, we have a much better display that works very well both indoors and outdoors. So again, AMOLED display here is just way better than the LCD display on the X3 GT. Apart from that, take a look at this, guys. When I just tilt the device from side to side, you'll notice how much it loses its display right here on the POCO X3 GT, whereas on the F3, it is strong and steady just like all other kind of AMOLED displays. You have great contrast levels, colors that pop and all that. It looks amazing on the POCO F3. So that's definitely a huge win for the POCO F3 right here. Now, apart from that, if you are a gamer, you should also take note that this POCO X3 GT here has a sampling rate of 240Hz, whereas the one on the POCO X3 has a sampling rate of 360Hz. So it is more sensitive to your touches and might result in slightly better gaming experience. But again, that is really down to your personal skills. If you're bad at gaming, even if I give you 1000Hz, you'll still be bad at gaming. But that's the difference between the displays of both devices here. And in this case, the POCO F3's display absolutely trashes the display of the POCO X3 GT. Now, let's move on to the next point, and that is the processing power. So the processing power on both devices here are also quite different. On one hand, the POCO X3 GT here uses MediaTek's Dimensity 1100 5G, whereas our POCO F3 on the other hand here uses the well-known Snapdragon 870 that is very, very good. And what I mean by that is that it offers excellent performance at very low temperatures. So this is a proven processor from Snapdragon. And in terms of the benchmark scores alone, we can see that the POCO F3 here is about 20% better than the one on the POCO X3 GT. Now I have done the Geekbench test here, and just in terms of the single and multi-core score difference, you can see that it is about 200-ish to 300-ish in terms of the benchmark scores there, and that is about 20% difference. So this is just for your reference. In terms of numbers, sheer numbers alone, the POCO F3 here absolutely takes the win. However, I have to be honest with you guys, in terms of just day-to-day use and even gaming for that matter, both devices here perform very well. Launching apps has been very quick, gaming has been very fun, the experience has been very nice, and both devices here do not actually heat up that much at all. So if you actually go for the X3 GT right here, I'm not saying that the MediaTek Dimensity 1100 is a bad processor. I'm just saying that it is not as fast or as powerful as the Snapdragon 870, but regardless of that, you're not losing out much in terms of sheer app launching speeds, app smoothness and all that. So again, still very acceptable, but if you must go for the better one, the Snapdragon 870 here takes the cake. Now, on to the next point. Let's talk very quickly about the cameras that we have at the back. So in terms of cameras, we both have triple camera setups here on both devices. On the X3 GT, it is rocking a 64 megapixel main, an 8 megapixel ultra wide, and a 2 megapixel macro. Whereas on the POCO device right here, we are having a 48 megapixel main, an 8 megapixel ultra wide, and a 5 megapixel macro. Now, obviously, I don't take a lot of macro shots, so I'm not going to put that in today's comparison. We're going to focus on the 64 megapixel versus the 48 megapixel. And in this case, I would say that in terms of just photos side by side, here is a quick comparison for you guys to see, so you can see which device actually takes the better photo. Now, based on what I'm seeing right here, it is very obvious that the POCO X3 GT and its 64 megapixel sensor offers slightly more detail, it is a bit more sharper as well, and more importantly, it comes with more accurate color temperatures. So for those more natural images, you can definitely count on the POCO X3 GT. Now, that's not to say that it is a bad camera on the POCO F3, but we all know right now that the camera is not the POCO F3's strongest point. So as you can see from these samples, they are not to say miles apart, but if you just want that slightly better camera, I would say, to be fair, the win goes to the POCO X3 GT right here. Alright, now in terms of the next point, let's talk very quickly about the batteries in the back. So on the POCO X3 GT right here, we have a pretty large 5000 mAh battery, whereas on the POCO F3 here, it is all slim and that, but we only get a 4520 mAh battery. Now, the more important thing here that you guys should take note of is the charging speeds. So the POCO X3 GT here supports 67 watt fast charging, and it even came with that charger in the box. Really excellent stuff there. It goes from 0 to 100% in just 42 minutes. Super fast. Compared to the POCO F3 right here, this only supports 33 watt fast charge. Again, that's not to say it is slow by any means, but 0 to 100 takes about 50 plus minutes. So it is slightly about 10 minutes slower to charge a slightly smaller battery. So obviously here, just based on numbers alone, the POCO X3 GT here takes the cake. It wins the charging speeds test, and yes, I can affirm to you that the charging speeds is really that quick on the POCO X3 GT right here. Now, just based on day-to-day use, I would say that both devices here are definitely able to pull through one full day on a single charge. So you need not worry about battery life at all. However, if you do appreciate and must have a faster charging battery, then the POCO X3 GT is the one for you. Now, two final things I want to talk about here. The first one is the haptics engine, and that is great for both devices. We have the X-axis haptics motor in both devices right here, and they perform really well. I'm very happy that POCO is always providing us decent haptic engines, even for affordable devices like this. The crisp and very short kind of haptics is really good for the overall experience. The second thing that I want to talk about here is actually in the speaker quality. Both devices have dual stereo speakers and they sound great, and they also do not have headphone jacks at the bottom as well as at the top, so you're missing that out there. Alright, I think that's pretty much what I want to conclude for today's comparison. Again, should you purchase the POCO X3 GT or should you just go for the POCO F3? Well, based on my personal opinion and my actual use with both devices right here, I will have to say that I will go with the POCO F3. Now for just 100 ringgit more or 30 US dollars, you're getting quite a lot more in terms of performance for your money. First up, you're getting a much better display here. AMOLED display that looks amazing, great saturation, great contrast levels, and even that higher touch sampling rate is already a huge win. This is going to be something that you're looking at most of the time throughout the entire day. Now the second thing that I want to point out here is the processor difference. This is using a Snapdragon 870, which is optimized and is providing great performance for very low temperatures. So you're not missing out a lot. There are a lot of Snapdragon 870 devices that are more expensive than POCO F3 right here. The only thing that it is slightly lacking here is in terms of the camera. It loses out to the POCO X3 GT slightly, and that charging speed, which is not as fast as the X3 GT. But if I had to choose one, I will definitely go for the POCO F3. Now, let me know what you guys think. Which one would you go for? Would you go with the X3 GT or would you go for the F3? Let me know down in the comment section below. And if you like this video or I have learned something from this video, please do give it a like or a sub to support the channel. I appreciate you guys dropping by to check out this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay safe, everybody. Bye!